1 against number 2, the game of the season right here on CSTV. Now for the number 1 ranked Johns Hopkins Blue Jays, the starting lineup littered with offensive stars. Connor Ford, the senior. Kyle Barry had a breakout game last weekend against Maryland. You see the defense, kind of a no-name group. Garvey, Pinto, and Watson down at the bottom. They are extremely quick to double and triple team. For the Naval Academy, head coach Richie Meade's got 98 career victories, 10-1 on the season. This is the best Naval Academy team since the early 80s. Ian Dingman, we talked about him in the open, but this offense is very, very deep. Bursner's a great feeder. Bossi, 30 goals on the season. Graham Gill is the fastest of the midshipmen.
And Quinn, in goal for Johns Hopkins, it will be Scott Smith, who is giving up just 7 goals against on the season, saving about 59% of the opportunities against him.
Smith was taken out of the goal in the second quarter against Maryland last week. A below-par effort for him. Let's see how he bounces back.
And we'll see how Johns Hopkins comes off that 14-10 win over Maryland a week ago. That is one of the challenges when you're Johns Hopkins. You know, every game is going to be a big one. When you wore the blue and white of the Johns Hopkins Blue Jays, when you go from playing Maryland, which is the big game, then the next week you have second-ranked Navy, that is the big game. How do you keep that intensity level up week in and week out?
I think Coach Petramala has learned to give the kids some time off during the week. You've got to, let them get comfortable and recuperate after a game against a team like Maryland Saturday night, which had to take an emotional toll.
And there is Dave Petramala, the 2-time National Coach of the Year, and Richie Meade in his 10th season at the Naval Academy. 71 wins after 4 seasons at the University of Baltimore.
He is a clear-cut front-runner for this year's National Coach of the Year. He's done an amazing job.
And here is where this game may be decided, Quint. The face-off X, both of these teams have excelled. In fact, Navy winning 66% of the face-offs on the season is first in the nation. And sure enough, it's the midshipmen who take the opening face-off against Johns Hopkins.
Kazamka, he's a clamper. He clamped it and raked it out to himself, and now we've got one of these crazy ground ball scenarios.
Navy controls. Johns Hopkins is on the ride, and we would like to extend a warm welcome to those watching today's game on CNA. Fast start here between Navy and Johns Hopkins. Already an early save for Scott Smith.
That is a hallmark of this Navy program. They get the loose ball. It was Looney upfield to Bucky Morris in transition. They don't slow it down and settle it. They attack, attack, attack.
Welcome again to those watching CNA, the Comcast Network. Johns Hopkins' first possession. What are we going to expect from? Well, I think we got the answer right there. Kyle Harrison out of the midfield with the ball in his stick. He will be the point man for the Johns Hopkins attack.
Navy bumps Mitch Hendler, number 34, up. Their fastest defender to cover Kyle Harrison. Each team is limited to 4 long poles as Hendler makes that check.
Harrison gets it right back, and Johns Hopkins is going to bring it back out to midfield.
First midfield line for Hopkins. Boland, Kevin Boland, the senior, Kyle Harrison, and Matt Rakowski.
Mitch Hendler comes away with it. And Navy quickly clearing. This is where the midshipmen excel. Speed to Dingman, loses it. Stick checked out of there. Tom Garvey trying to chase it down. Navy will hang on to the ball. Quint, let's check out the Toyota keys to the game.
Hopkins needs to make about 55% saves from their goaltender, Scott Smith, or goaltender is Jesse Schwartzman. Senior leadership, Petramala alluded to it all week. You've got some players like Boland, McDermott, Connor Ford, and Corey Harned that need to step up. Navy, can they be effective in the 6-on-6 defense? So far, the answer is yes. And the last key, this crowd, the emotion should lead to energy, ground ball play. And if Navy can feed off of this record-setting crowd, that is a huge intangible. I think it's worth 2 or 3 goals.
And that has been the difference. You asked Richie Meade, the Navy head coach, what the difference has been this year for Navy. He says we're getting the 1-goal wins and we're excelling in tight games, whereas we have not done that in the past. Bailey throws it away, picked up on the backside by Graham Gill. Gill with a clear shot, stick save on the outside from Scott Smith. Battle for the ground ball. Navy picks it up, but a turnover is John Berstner was trying to make that pass out of the corner and ends up throwing it away.
What a great story Graham Gill, number 12, is. He was an excellent high school soccer player, played club lacrosse in high school, was not recruited by anyone. Good save by Smith. His uncle is Dom Starsia, the head coach of the University of Virginia. Starsia called me and said, hey, can you give my nephew a shot? And Graham Gill has emerged as one of the finest midfielders in the nation this year.
Navy riding hard, forces a turnover, and the intensity in the early going in this game is exactly what you would expect between Navy and Johns Hopkins when they're ranked number 1 and number 2.
Hopkins, they've got to recalibrate for Navy's speed. Everything Navy does is done at an extremely fast pace, whether it's riding, whether it's clearing the ball, whether it's playing offense or defense, and Hopkins has not seen this type of speed this year.
This is Billy Looney, one of 3 Looney brothers moving in, taking the shot, missing it wide. Navy not shying away from goal in the early going. Already 3 shots against Johns Hopkins goaltender Scott Smith. Billy Looney, the freshman from Silver Spring, Maryland, the youngest of the Looney brothers, playing for Navy. John Berstner in a battle again, finds himself trapped in the same corner, same result. Navy will hang on to it, though. Berstner turned it over on the last possession. Midshipman running it through the midfield with Graham Gill yet again. They like that matchup. He draws a double team, so on to Ben Bailey, sends it high and off the football goalpost. Pleased to be joined by Joe Beninati today with us on CSTV. And Joe, we've seen Scott Smith pressured early on in goal for Johns Hopkins.
Carter, Scott Smith, all of 40 minutes experience last year. He's been a goalie since he was in 1st grade. His brother stuck him between the pipes. He's looking forward to a big game today. As the Hopkins starting netminder, you get big games by the bushel full.
No question about it, Joe, and that's a position that Arquette Kesnick served between the pipes.
I think Smith's most impressive characteristics this season has really been his poise. He is really relaxed in the cage. His best saves, truthfully, are his kick saves. He made 2 fine kick saves against Mike Powell in Syracuse. He's very acrobatic between the pipes. Seems flexible and almost Gumby-like between the pipes.
So does that make one of his teammates pokey then? If he's...
Well, flexibility from a goaltender, as you know, from hockey helps. And so Smith is real good on those down low shots where he'll go into those splits.
Johns Hopkins moving in. This is Jake Byrne, who's forced out of there, a freshman who's had a terrific season. 7 goals, 5 assists in his freshman year for Johns Hopkins. And now backing it out, Matt Rakowski.
Hopkins may have a slight advantage in the second midfield. Joe McDermott is senior. Kyle Dowd had 2 goals last week against Maryland. And Jake Byrne, the freshman, in the second midfield unit. They get a little more production than Navy's second midfield does. So if this game comes down to the wire, that could be a differential.
Byrne slips behind the cage and then feeds it out to Kyle Berry. Second on the team in both goals and points is Kyle Berry, a junior from Pennsylvania. Down to Connor Ford backing in. They'll work it back around. And Johns Hopkins maybe working some clock here to give their defense and goalie Scott Smith some rest. Finally a shot, but it goes wide off the stick from Kyle Dowd. There you see Matt Russell, who took over in goal on March 5th versus North Carolina. 9-0 on the season. Only double-digit game that he has given up was Army on March 27th. Hopkins misses a golden chance there.
Wow, Jake Byrne, I believe, on his knees. It was a tremendous pass across to Peter Lesor, who caught it right-handed, and Lesor just missed the net from about 2 yards. Going back to Matt Russell, 2 saves in the Maryland game really stick out. He stuffed Joe Walters, and he made another huge save in that game. The Navy crowd drew a lot of emotion from that play. He's a little awkward also. He plays real low with a wide base. Almost invites you to shoot high, and then at the last second, he takes it away.
Jake Byrne knocked to the ground, so he has to pass it back out to the midfield. Connor Ford trying to feed inside. Taken away by Navy. Dan Harris sprinting into midfield. Johns Hopkins, you can tell, is trying to ride especially hard today. This is Clipper Lennon, who's going to now back it out and wait for the midfield lines to change out for the midshipman.
Fine defensive possession for the Naval Academy. Lesor with the high percentage shot. He missed. Navy says, you're not going to get 2 good shots in that possession. They get it. And I like the way Clipper Lennon, I talk about a smart player. He sniffed that transition opportunity out. He challenged McDermott. McDermott, number 42 for Hopkins, he was up to the task. And so Lennon settled.
Now Johns Hopkins back on defense against Navy. Midshipmen have peppered the goal, but have not yet found the back of the net. Adam Reel moving in, and he'll pass up on the left-handed shot, give it to John Bershner. Back around to the top of the attack zone. And Taylor Harris jogging in. They like that spot of the field, maybe.
Last week, University of Maryland had some success driving down the alley and then throwing the ball back up top. Right there, that pass and a shot. It's open against Hopkins defense because Hopkins defense tends to slough in too much.
Taylor Harris has it checked out of his stick by Matt Field. And Johns Hopkins trying to clear. Both of these teams riding very aggressively. Vincent Irwin clears it for the Blue Jays and may have a shot. He sets up Corey Harden. Tough stick check inside, taken back.
I think the officials have let it be known on that last play that this is going to be a free-for-all. Unless there's blood drawn and unless a stretcher is needed, there's going to be no fouls. This is going to be a physical and intense game.
And it has been physical from the outset. Scoreless between #1 Johns Hopkins and second-ranked Navy.
Both teams typically play man-to-man defense. We will see some zones, typically off of a timeout. Hopkins likes to switch to their zone defense.
Billy Looney setting up Ben Bailey. Bounce shot, and he beats Scott Smith down low to give Navy a 1-0 lead.
Superb execution. Navy in the films against Maryland spotted a weakness in the Hopkins defense. And it's when you drive aside and throw it back to the middle. Bailey, who's been hot as of late, a 4-year starter, he's really found his form shooting after coming off a chronic back problem. It's Ben Bailey, the former attackman, gets Navy on the board. Did this place erupt or what? Holy mackerel, this place went absolutely crazy on that goal.
To give Navy a 1-0 lead. Ben Bailey, a senior from Memphis, Tennessee, and for the seniors from the Naval Academy, basically their season, the end of their senior year, goes lacrosse, graduation, reporting for duty. On June 4th, Ben Bailey will report to flight training school in Florida, and then all of these Navy players know that beyond that and beyond training, it is an uncertain situation with Afghanistan, with Iraq. So this is the end to college, and this is the end to an enjoyable lacrosse career for the seniors at the Naval Academy.
Coach Petramala cannot like the way this game has been dominated in terms of time of possession by the Naval Academy, but you don't win face-offs and you mishandle the ball on clears, you're going to play an awful lot of defense.
Second chance for Ben Bailey. Instead, he whips it down to Dingman. I'm not sure he was expecting that low pass.
Bailey had a big sophomore season last year, as I alluded to, the back problems, and now he's finally starting to feel it.
There's Bailey's goal, who gave Navy a 1-0 lead. Billy Looney trying to lean in to make it 2-0. Bad pass taken away over the middle by Frank Matuchek. A correction. It's Greg Raymond who takes that away. For Johns Hopkins with his long ball.
Greg Raymond, one of the captains of Johns Hopkins, and Coach Petramala going to the bench early defensively. You don't want to get tired early in a game like this. There's so much adrenaline involved. So typically at the beginning of the game, you'll shorten the shifts. Get everyone a touch, get everyone familiar with the field and the crowd. The hardest thing for these players today is going to be communication from sideline to field and from player to player. It's awful loud out there.
How does that show up?
Well, both coaches have placards, hand cards that they'll hold up for the teams. But typically in transition, a guy could be standing 5 yards away and you're saying, hey, Carter, you got a guy behind you. And Carter, you can't hear it. So it requires a lot of the players to communicate and really make decisions on their own.
So Navy trying to communicate now. A screen on the right side, trying to set up Kyle Harrison, and he finds the side of the goal. Matt Russell looked like he got his stick on that, but not enough to keep Kyle Harrison from tying this game at 1-1.
Kyle Harrison unassisted. You're talking about a wonderful, wonderful athlete who's gained an understanding of how to utilize his skills. The alley dodge, he'll take it right down the football hash marks, jump shot right-handed. Russell saw that, but you notice his top hand, the head of his stick really didn't move towards the ball. Keep your eye on the head of Matt Russell, the goaltender's stick. It's just not moving down towards the ball. He tried to click his heels and block it with his toes, but that's what the overhand motion in the jump shot does. It freezes the goalie.
Navy has won the first 2 face-offs. The nation's #1 face-off team, but the Blue Jays come away with face-off #3. Opportunity here for Lou Braun off the wing, and now he'll finally dish it back to Kyle Berry behind the cage.
Lou Braun could be the hero at the end of this game. Joe Beninati in our pregame show alluded to Greg Pizer for Johns Hopkins, suspended. 71%, leads the nation in face-off efficiency. Now, Lou Braun is no slouch, 48% on the season, but he's going to take about 10 or 15 face-offs today. He better be ready.
Braun's face-off win gives Johns Hopkins the ball here in a 1-1 game. Blue Jays coming off a 14 win over Maryland a week ago. Both of these teams' own wins over Maryland. When Navy beat #1 ranked Maryland, it was the first ever win for Navy against a top-ranked team. Now they're trying to do it 2 times in 2 weeks. Right at goal, and Matt Russell makes his save. Long outlet. Navy in transition. Dan Harris to the midfield. This is where they love to get the ball to Ian Dingman. #1 at the top. Instead, he'll give way to Steve Looney, who just misses off the left side.
I absolutely love Navy's transition offense. The players typically in college lacrosse now bail out to the substitution box, but not Navy. They push the ball down the side and then back up top for the trailer. Like in ice hockey, you know, it's almost like a drop pass. Looney caught that, and a seam opened up. What a beautiful secondary break by Navy going from defense to offense.
Like the old North Carolina-Kansas basketball teams running the secondary break.
It's not always going to be a 4-on-3. A lot of times it's going to be a 5-on-4 or a 6-on-5 break. And the key for Navy is sprinting in the middle third of the field. Don't jog from defense to offense. Beat your man down the field.
Shot up high. See, that's what you get from Quint Kesnick. I mean, not just the lacrosse analysis, but a sports renaissance man. Berstner behind the cage. He's trying to edge his way in. Upcoming the first penalty of the game.
Pinto got him up around the helmet. Matt Pinto.
Navy trying to steal a goal here to take a 2-1 lead. Dingman stick checked inside, and he got wrapped up tight by Tom Garvey. One of the few looks early on for Ian Dingman.
Pinto will have a seat in the penalty box, I believe, for a slashing violation. Our head official today is Hans Wittelsberger as he makes the call. But a close look at Ian Dingman, Carthage, New York. Had ankle chips removed at the end of last season, and he has come back with a vengeance. Watch the slash. I think it occurred just before that, but he was up high. And Berstner, because of his lack of height, he's only 5'8". Sometimes it's tough to cover those short guys. They get down so low, you have to adjust and really sit down when you're playing them defensively.
It is a 1-minute slash against Pinto, so an extra man opportunity for Navy. Johns Hopkins has been terrific on the man down, as you would expect from a defensive-minded team from Dave Petramala. Just 17% opponents against Johns Hopkins on the extra man. They've given up just 5 goals.
Berstner, the trigger man behind the cage. Ben Horn is a right-handed shooter that Navy inserts here because he's got a pretty strong outside shot.
Ben Horn is going to whip it back out to Ben Bailey now at the top of the box. On the left side, Graham Gill looked like he wanted that left-handed shot. Instead, setting up Ben Bailey, and he whips it just over the head of Scott Smith.
Bailey can bring it. Right-handed, one cradle and a shot. Look at the efficient ball movement. It's Bossy to Bailey. Smith fortunate that that ball sailed over the line, over the post, because I think that might have had a beat.
10 seconds left on the extra man. Dingman gives Navy the 2-1 lead. First shot attempt of the day for Ian Dingman. And the big man from upstate New York makes it 2-1 midshipman.
Dingman from Berstner, the extra man goal, his 24th of the season. He is a force. Not only is he a big player, but Coach Meade referred to Dingman as just a great lacrosse player, and you can see the bounce in his step. He's got great hands, both righty and lefty. He just happens to weigh 250 pounds, and that's just an extra. If Dingman weighed 180, he'd still be a starter, and he'd still be an All-American, but the fact that he weighs 250, that's one added trait, one added thing that really makes him such a mismatch problem. But he's a great off-ball player as well.
Hopkins coach Dave Petramala said he wants to bring a dump truck out there to guard Ian Dingman. Joe Beninati on the sideline, another impressive man-up goal there for Ian Dingman.
Carter, Ian Dingman said it during the week. The Hopkins defense moves so well. Their slide packages, their coverages are so in tune that they had to be precise, that they had to do all the little things well. Well, ball movement there was in expert fashion, and Dingman knows how to put it away.
Ian Dingman makes it 2-1 Navy against top-ranked Johns Hopkins. Midshipmen trying for a win over Johns Hopkins for the first time since May 4th, 1974. Penalty upcoming. And there is a dead ball situation here, so we will quickly find out. One-minute slash. Join the over 150,000 members of U.S. Lacrosse and get Lacrosse Magazine in your mailbox. Visit www.uslacrosse.org today.
1 minute penalty at 1:15 in the first.
Our second penalty of the day. This is the first against Navy, so an extra man opportunity for Johns Hopkins.
This is a very skilled extra man team. Ball movement, the name of the game. And now all of a sudden we're seeing a lot of laundry by the officials.
Penalty flag on the field.
It'll be a slashing violation. Boland kind of caught the Naval Academy defense a little asleep. Typically at the beginning of a penalty, the team will throw the ball around the outside. That time Boland said, I'm not going to throw the ball, I'm going to attack right away. And Navy was a little too relaxed, thinking that Hopkins was just going to work it around the perimeter. So now we've got a 6-on-4. Look for the Naval Academy to box it up in a box. It's a 4-man zone, and Matt Russell's got to come up big.
It's a crowded Navy penalty box now.
1 minute penalty.
Hopkins with a 2-man advantage. Connor Ford puts the shot on goal, backed up by Johns Hopkins.
Rakowski leads the Hopkins scores with 7 extra man goals.
32 seconds left on the 2-man off the pipe from Jake Byrne.
Jake Byrne from Landon, only a freshman. His brother, Matt Hahn, played at the University of Maryland.
26 seconds now on the 2-man advantage for Johns Hopkins. Third shot, this one high again from Jake Byrne. Johns Hopkins has put 3 shots on goal with this 2-man advantage, but none have found the net.
All of Hopkins' shots from the perimeter, other than the Harrison goal, have been high.
See if the Blue Jays work it inside. This is Kyle Berry trying to find Rakowski inside. Instead on the wing, whipped on the shot. 3 seconds left on the 2-man. That shot is low. And the first penalty is released against Navy. Now it is a 1-man advantage for 13 seconds. This could be a huge momentum shift for the midshipmen. Pass in front, goes off the stick of Kyle Berry out to midfield. With 4 seconds, this is now man down opportunity for Navy. Penalty is released, and the midshipmen kill off a 2-man Johns Hopkins advantage. A 2-1 lead for the midshipmen, and now all the momentum in Navy's favor. At the end of one, it is second-ranked Navy with a 2-1 advantage over top-ranked Johns Hopkins. Second quarter coming up on CSTV Lacrosse.
CSTV Lacrosse, presented by STX. Surprisingly low scoring in Annapolis today. A battle of number 1 against number 2. It's Navy and Hopkins. Joe Beninati joined by Bob Russell.
Thanks,
Bob, goalies are a rare breed. When did you know that your son Matt was likely going to be finding himself between the pipes?
Well, Matt started playing in about 4th grade. and he's had some superb coaches. He had Greg Catrano, the All-American at Brown, and the Bayhawks goalie. His high school coach is one of the finest goalie coaches, Chris Smallkice at Fairfield Prep. And Ray Finnegan here at Navy is probably the best guy on this planet. And we're very blessed.
Goalies tend to be superstitious. Apparently their dads are too. You've got a pair of lucky shorts on.
We've been winning with these shorts since North Carolina, but it's the defense in these kids, has nothing to do with me.
Thanks for spending some time with us.
Thanks.
Carter.
Bye.
Thank you very much, Joe. Another penalty upcoming. Well, Matt Russell, as a sophomore, is taken over in goal. Mentioned early March against North Carolina, taking over for Seth Denola, a junior who's now playing some long stick midi. That was a very tough transition, not only for those two young men, but for a team when you pull a junior goalie and give the role over to a sophomore. But Russell has obviously succeeded with 9 consecutive wins for the midshipman in goal.
Slashing violation against Tom Garvey. He only has 1.5 minutes of penalties now on the season. So that's his first 1-minute violation of the season. Coming in, he had a 30-second push violation.
Second extra man opportunity for Navy. The first time Ian Dingman scored what is now the deciding goal in this game, 2-1. Johns Hopkins trying to get possession back, though. Matt Pinto whips it out to midfield, where it's picked up by Ben Bailey. Navy back with the extra man. Just under 30 seconds remaining on the man up.
The initial play for Navy, it was there. It was Gill inside the Horn. Horn couldn't handle. But relentlessness by Navy now in the clearing and the riding game. Navy is refusing to let Hopkins bring the ball up without a challenge. They're earning the ball back.
That pass goes off the back of the cage. Navy's going to get it right back, though, with time winding down on this extra man opportunity. Penalty is released. Even strength.
Navy will reset their offense right now, get organized. They still have their extra man personnel on the field. Sometimes you can find a mismatch after. And here's Navy with the sub. Ben Horn will come out of the game. So excellent defense by Johns Hopkins after that Tom Garvey foul.
Dave Petromal, the head coach of Johns Hopkins, is the only person ever to win the Player of the Year award. He did it as a defenseman with Johns Hopkins and the Coach of the Year. He has been twice the National Coach of the Year, once at Cornell in his 3 seasons at Ithaca, and once here at Johns Hopkins. Dingman leaves that shot high.
What Navy is doing, they're putting Dingman inside, and his man is forced to be the double team. And so when Navy presses from the perimeter, that was Bailey, Hopkins slides off of Dingman. You'll see the support right there. Dingman's open for a second. He gets the shot.
Well, the Navy crowd erupted thinking that shot found the back of the net. In fact, it found the side, and Scott Smith comes away with it.
They got to do something about that in lacrosse, Carter. Tell you the fans, they always get it wrong.
Well, sometimes us announcers do as well. That looked like a 3-1 Navy lead. Johns Hopkins owns 29 consecutive wins against Navy, the longest streak in college lacrosse of one team dominating another. You heard before the game, Richie Meade, Navy head coach, you can't call this a rivalry. We've been beaten 29 consecutive times by the Blue Jays.
Well, that's a little Lou Holtzism right there, because as we showed you earlier.
Nice dodge. That one just trickles off the right side. As Kyle Berry nearly found the goal.
Trail check. Berry got flustered at the last second, but that's twice now the Hopkins shooters.
Lucky bounce. Connor Ford takes advantage to make it 2-all.
And a late hit, dead ball foul. There'll be no face-off, and Hopkins will start on the extra man. Ford catches this, and with an uncanny ability, he knows exactly where the goal is. The Bronco, Connor Ford, 230 pounds.
3+ into the second quarter. Johns Hopkins gets a bounce and another bounce to tie us at 2.
This CSTV program is brought to you by Geico. A 15-minute call could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Mr. Thompson, after hearing Dodge.
They just fed it right behind me.
Okay, that's a far wing, Phil. That's a far wing, Phil, not top center. We asked George to come top down. If we ask George to come top down there, then the pull is open. They haven't shown us that they want to skip yet. Okay, so Greg, in that situation, make sure you get Benson down. Kevin, pull him with you.
Okay.
Benson, you push him, and Greg, you split the two. Okay? Tighten slide as much as you can. Kevin did a great job. The one time, I told you, we can talk him out of his dodge if we get a good, hard, tighten slide.
Dave Petramala continues to counsel the defense for Hopkins on the sideline. It's a 2-2 game with CSTV Lacrosse here in Annapolis. Seth Tierney is the offensive guru for Johns Hopkins. During the week, he laid out a plan that included 25 different extra man looks. They have 25 different sets to choose from as they're about to go for the lead strike with the extra player.
Thank you, Joe Beninati on the sideline. CSTV Lacrosse presented by STX, and what a matchup we have today. Number 1, Johns Hopkins, number 2, Navy. Here is Johns Hopkins after tying the game 2-2. Late hit, and so the Blue Jays go an extra man.
Hopkins for 3 weeks didn't get to run any of those 25 plays because teams were pressing them. They were striking out and taking them out of their plays. It was a strategy that Virginia did to perfection, and then it was copied and mimicked by North Carolina and Duke.
That is Johns Hopkins' only loss of the year to the Virginia Cavaliers. Struggled this season.
Ball movement. That's what separates this unit. They returned 4 of these players from last year's team. The 2 significant losses from their offense, captains Adam Doniger and Bob Benson, but Matt Rakowski, the transfer from Duke, and Jake Byrne, the freshman, have assumed their roles. There's a great continuity between these 6.
Trying to give Johns Hopkins the lead on the extra man time, winding down though. 13 seconds, 12, that shot high off the stick of Matt Russell. Follow up. Crease violation, but a flag coming up, 2 flags, so wipe off that goal.
Russell made a serious save on that cannon by Connor Ford that was bound for the corner. He got the top part of the stick on the ball, and you can see it just trickled past the post. And then Boland scoops up the rebound. He's decked into the crease. Russell holds his ground, and another point-blank shot that the Blue Jays missed. That's a good save right there. Let me tell you, Connor Ford can bring it, folks. 90+ miles an hour. The ball's absolutely moving, and Russell gets his stick across his face to make that save.
There are 2 penalties. Well, no, there's 1 penalty on the play. Saw only 3 defenders out there for Navy. This will be 3 seconds of a 2-man advantage, and now a 1-man advantage. Now it's a 1-man advantage. 20 seconds remaining on the man up for Johns Hopkins. Kyle Berry gives Johns Hopkins a 3-2 advantage, the first lead of the day for top-ranked Johns Hopkins.
You wonder why Kyle Berry is considered maybe the best attackman in the nation. He absolutely sticks this ball in the corner. The defense was good. I tell you, Navy, they fought, and then the junior from Haverford, Pennsylvania, watch the location, the end result, boom, right inside the pipe. He sticks the corner. His shooting touch was on fire last week against Maryland, and it looks like that has continued. Coach Petramala said that Berry was in a midseason slump, that he'd been pressing, but he seems to have recovered. Kyle Berry, sensational accuracy.
Well, Berry last week against Maryland scored the first 2 goals of the game for Johns Hopkins, ended up with 3 goals and an assist, and now he gives Johns Hopkins the lead with an extra man goal. And Hopkins controls the faceoff.
Team's back to even strength. If this game becomes a battle of the specialty situations, I think Hopkins, by the numbers, has a slight advantage. If it becomes a man-up and man-down contest, I think that favors the Blue Jays. Remember, Navy wants to run and gun. They want transition lacrosse. They don't want to get caught playing a half-field game.
Which is what they're in right now, and Johns Hopkins has used it to its advantage. Byrne has a little trouble holding on to that ball on the far side. Steve Looney checks it away from him, and here is Steve Looney sprinting through the midfield.
Guess who? A ground ball, number 8, Steve Looney. He owns this carpet in Navy Marine Corps Stadium. He's an absolute wizard at getting the ball off the ground. He's got super glue in his stick.
And Quint, you mentioned the turf here. Obviously, it's natural grass at Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium. Johns Hopkins traditionally has struggled on natural grass when they have struggled in the 4 years under Dave Petramala.
Petramala 35-3 on turf, 7-6 as a head coach at Johns Hopkins University on grass. Now those losses, 3 of those losses were in the playoffs. Playoff losses to Notre Dame, Virginia, and Princeton, and a bunch of losses down at Charlottesville as well. So it's a factor of grass, yes, and a factor also of competition.
Bailey sends that one high. Where does that show up the difference between turf and grass and impact of the game?
You can see the numbers right there. But I think for Hopkins, it comes down to maybe a step or two quickness-wise. I think Kevin Boland and Kyle Harrison are wonderful dodgers on turf. I think they lose a half a step on grass. But again, it's competition. You know, they lost the game 10-9 on the grass at Byrd Stadium against Maryland a couple years ago. They lost the national final last year. So those are really quality games that they've played in those situations.
Hopkins playing on grass here today against Navy. Midshipman trying to tie us again. A great save down low for Scott Smith off that shot from Joe Bossi. On the follow-up, Navy just does keep possession as Smith tried diving toward the inline to back it up.
Bossi with the left hand, the hands, he has got such a quick release. So look at Graham Gill with that second shot. But it was Bossi's left-handed shot that Scott Smith did the split, talking about those kick saves, and that was a great example.
Ian Dingman ties it again, second goal of the day for the 6'3" sophomore, and we are tied again.
Dingman from downtown. He is such a triple threat every time he gets the ball, to shoot, to pass, or to dodge. And that is powerful shot, and that is a well-placed shot. You see the reaction on the sideline. You can only defend the interior so much. When Dingman sticks one from about 14 yards, you just got to shake your head.
Well, Richie Meade told us this week, as you said, Clint, that he's not just a big guy, he's a great lacrosse player, and he has great stick work. Joe Beninati on the sideline with more on Ian Dingman.
Carter, Ian Dingman has so much of the Navy offense run through him, and he's more than willing to accept the brunt. He wants the ball, and he's willing to take a beating. Why? Because he's got practically a suit of armor on. Yes, he weighs nearly 250 pounds, but with all the additional padding, you got to run another 15 pounds onto his list. Shoulder pads, extra arm pads, double protection near the gloves, a huge helmet, and the largest shoulder pads you can imagine as Hopkins strikes again.
Kevin Boland quickly gives Johns Hopkins the lead right back. And where was the breakdown there defensively to give Boland that clear shot?
Boland down the right-handed alley. They put a short stick on him. He had drawn the pole last week against Maryland. He had drawn the pole in the first quarter. But Boland says, hey, you got to respect me. You got to put a better defender on. Pushes the alley and then shoots again, that overhand shot. Kevin Boland, Gilman School, he's a senior. He's really the glue that holds this Hopkins midfield together. Very versatile player. Last year in the NCAA tournament, 12 assists, which nearly set a Johns Hopkins school record. He is a terrific passer around the net.
4-3 Johns Hopkins winning the game, and 4-3 Johns Hopkins winning at the face-off X. Make it 5-3 as Kyle Harrison winds up and makes it 5-3 Johns Hopkins.
Here comes one of those runs. It starts with face-offs and pinpoint shooting. Harrison right off the face-off. Real time. Look at his ability to get that ball, and boom, one of the fastest players in college lacrosse sets his feet, uses the earth for the skip shot off the ground. And there's Kyle Harrison.
Quint, we came on the air today talking about face-offs and how this game may be directly related to face-offs. The score is 5-3 Johns Hopkins. The face-offs are 5-3 Johns Hopkins.
And to get a goal in transition off the face-off counts a little more than just a typical face-off win.
Navy wins this one. We'll see if they can translate. As Steve Looney gets another ground ball, winding up with a long pole is Bucky Morris, and he nearly snuck one in that transition.
Bucky Morris, captain, separated shoulder. What a courageous kid he is. Very, very dangerous on the wing of faceoffs because he's so talented with that long pole in transition. It's Looney getting the ground balls to Morris. That is the equation for success for Navy this season.
And now the midshipmen will try to run some clock and end the Johns Hopkins run. Back-to-back goals for the Blue Jays have given Johns Hopkins its biggest lead at 5-3. And Navy's going to take a timeout.
Timeout called. Navy, timeout.
2 straight goals from Johns Hopkins, including right off the face-off from Kyle Harrison. It's 5-3 Blue Jays.
Yes, thank you.
A crowd of perhaps 20,000. We'll get the official word to you later here at Annapolis, Maryland, Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium. Hopkins with a 2-goal lead. We talked about Ian Dingman with all the equipment that he wears. I mean, to cover a 6'3", 248-pound frame, you got to have a whole lot of equipment from STX.
And what's very rare about that is nowadays the players are using less and less and less, just basically little elbow guards that cover their elbow joint and mock shoulder pads. Dingman, he's going retro. He's going with the old school pads. Padded up, baby. It works for him.
2 goals on the day for Ian Dingman. CSTV Lacrosse presented by STX. Carter Blackburn with Quinn Kesnick and Joe Beninati from Annapolis, Maryland. Second-ranked Navy against #1 Johns Hopkins.
It's a well-orchestrated timeout by Richie Meade. Sensing that Hopkins is on a little 2-goal run, you've got 2 timeouts per half. You might as well use one to get your team's composure back.
And yet Johns Hopkins, if they can find this ground ball, they'll get possession right back.
Petramala might call timeout if Hopkins gets it.
Didn't get it in time. Taylor Harris brings it right back for Navy. This is where Dingman loves to use that stick work. He nearly got his 3rd goal. Down to Joe on the sideline.
Carter, Richie Meade, you guys were talking about a well-placed timeout there. He got the sense that his team was getting a little bit scrambly. He just wanted to huddle them up, tell them to slow down, regain their control and their composure. He's talking all week about how they were going to out-hustle this Hopkins team. He doesn't want them to be on too much of a helter-skelter pace.
Thanks, Joe. Gwen, how do you think Navy's doing in the helter-skelter, trying to avoid the helter-skelter pace?
I thought they came out in that first 15 minutes with a tremendous push and energy. That subsided a little bit here, mainly because of their fouls. They ended up playing too much defense because they fouled.
Graham Gill has it stick checked away. Navy riding really hard, not getting the whistle there. It could have been another foul against the midshipmen.
The term riding is hockey's equivalent to forechecking. And it looks like Matt Field was pushed out of bounds. That's going to be a 30-second violation against Billy Looney, who has 2 assists. There you take a look at the energy on the Navy bench. They suit 50 players, does the Naval Academy. They have a JV here, and it's producing great results. If you look at this Naval Academy team, it's a national team. California, Tennessee, you alluded to it earlier, Connecticut. And they've got some wonderful development and some teaching that's going on, where guys are coming in as unheralded, under the radar high school recruits, and they're turning out to be, real stars at the Division I level.
Well, and it helps an awful lot when you have Richie Meade, who was an assistant coach here. He was an assistant coach at Army, and now in his 10th season at Navy. The academy is a different place, academically, socially, and athletically. And Richie Meade knows the ins and outs of that and how to deal with young men who are training to be soldiers. Hopkins on the extra man. Pass across the right side. Connor Ford gives Johns Hopkins its biggest lead of the day. 3 goals. 3 straight goals for the Blue Jays, and it is 6-3 Johns Hopkins.
Ford from Boland on the extra man. The Blue Jays now have 2 extra man goals. Ford has 2 goals. Boland has 2 assists. Give Connor Ford credit. He mixed it up. Remember earlier? What kind of diet was he giving Matt Russell earlier? High shots. That time, same motion, but he let the sidearm shot go low. And Russell might have been thinking a little too much. That's a fine line as a goaltender. Do I read the scouting report and trust it, or do I trust my intuition? I always kind of threw the scouting report in the trash.
Navy wins this face-off, trying to give Matt Russell a much-needed break-in goal.
Pazanka with a key face-off win. tell you, goal-scoring runs are broken up by saves or winning face-offs.
It's a 3-0 run right now for Johns Hopkins to take the 6-3 advantage. Approaching 4 minutes before halftime. What a gorgeous day. And this is how you draw it up, Win. 1 versus 2. Beautiful spring day.
This facility, Carter, is unbelievable. This place was a great place to play and view a game. Now it is state-of-the-art and gorgeous.
And nearly 20,000. They had 13,000 advance tickets sold to this game. That's not counting the students from the Naval Academy.
Navy forcing the ball inside the Dingman on a backside and a near side feed.
Navy trying to work some clock here and work it through the attack zone. This is Ben Bailey moving in from the left side. To the goal line extended, Bailey wants that baseline. He'll feed across, taken away, and a great play by Corey Harnett. Long stick midfielder, and he is probably the best long stick midi in the country.
Petramala may use a timeout here, not with Harrison having the ball, though. Corey Harnett, one of the best in the nation, a real warrior. Guy who's played through a lot of knee injuries. There you see the game trends. Corey Harnett beat up, bad knees, was a high school attackman at Sachem High, one of the best on Long Island his senior year. Came to Hopkins, played short stick defense his freshman year. Then they gave him a long pole. Remember his play last year in the NCAA semis and finals. I think that's kind of where he separated himself from the pack with some amazing plays in transition at M&T Bank Stadium.
This year on CSTV Lacrosse, you can watch both the Division II and III national championships on the Sunday of Memorial Day weekend. And what a weekend it always is at the Lacrosse Final Four.
Good defense by Navy. Dowd getting tied up.
Brendan Looney comes away with it. The Loonies have gotten involved here for Navy.
Fine cross-field passing also. The key to clearing, you were with us last week, we talked about it at length, but change fields just like soccer. Work it up one side, redirect to the far side. There's always going to be someone open because the clearing team has 6 players in the goalie. The goalie's the extra man. Use the entire width of this 55 or 55-yard field.
Under 2 minutes remaining before the half. Navy trying to cut into what is the biggest lead for Johns Hopkins today at 3 goals. This game was tied at 3. Johns Hopkins has 3 straight.
Boom. Medora with that shot, the senior. Ellicott City, Maryland, Mount Hebron. It's the first time Smith has seen some rubber in a while.
And Dave Petramala is going to take a timeout to try to set up his attack with a minute 25 remaining before halftime. And a 4th goal here in this run for Johns Hopkins and a 4-goal lead would be huge heading into the locker room, especially with the way that Navy started with such momentum. Lacrosse, the King of Spring, is holding court this May on College Sports Television, showcasing the top men's and women's programs in the country, including the Division I, II, and III NCAA Women's National Championships, as well as the Division II and III Men's National Championships. College Sports TV, home to more NCAA lacrosse championships than any other network. The new home of college lacrosse, CSTV. Fun in the sun. We'll check in with Joe Beninati to see what Dave Petramala is telling his team in the Johns Hopkins huddle.
Carter, Dave is continuing to work through the defense, but Seth Tierney, with his discussions with the offensive group, he wants this to be the last possession of the half. He would like to see his team control the ball for the remainder of regulation time here in the first half. He wants them to be deliberate. He wants them to move off the ball. But most importantly, what he is saying, do not give Navy another chance to get on the board. Guys?
Thank you, Joe. So Johns Hopkins will try to eat up the last minute 22 of this first half with a 3-goal lead.
Off the timeout, Navy puts Mitch Hendler on Kyle Harrison, and they put their 2 short sticks on Connor Ford and Matt Rakowski.
That does not bode well for Navy. 23-2 since 2001 when leading at the half. But Navy as a transition team is one that can pick up the pace in the second half if they can control the face-off backs.
Hopkins lost this year to Virginia. The Blue Jays took an 8-6 lead late in the game. Virginia came back with the last 3 goals, including the game winner in overtime.
Under a minute remaining in the first half.
Hopkins just running a little motion pattern to kill some clock. I anticipate that they'll go to the goal anytime now.
Harrison trying to dodge in on the left side. Slide comes, so Hopkins will work it around. This is Bolin across the backside. Rakowski finds a wide open. Skakandi was the guy who took that shot, Clint.
Lesor hit the post, the lefty. Navy's defense doubled Harrison, and then they recovered, but the perimeter ball movement, the circular passing, was sensational for Hopkins. Richie Meade calling his second timeout, and they'll design a play with 10 seconds to go. Now this shot, this whole play started with Kyle Harrison dodging down the left alley. 3 passes later, it's Lesor from the wing. Boom, off the post, and did the ball bounce over the end line and then kick out? That's the question. A lot of times when the ball hits the crossbar, it'll bounce down with some backspin and then kick out of the goal.
Coming up at halftime on CSTV, we'll send you to the CSTV Fieldhouse scores and highlights, including the ACC semifinal. We'll want to stick around for that one. NFL draft update, plus our first half highlights and stats. We'll see where Eli goes in the NFL draft. He does not want to end up in San Diego.
I think San Diego's a pretty nice
So
city.
you got to stand up and do a good job here. Cover up the inside. Hey, cover up the skip lanes. Right, it's right, important right now is they're going to dodge and look to move it quickly. So we got to play the ball well and look to play the skip lanes, okay? Chances are dodge inside or through, or dodge down the side and back. Understood?
Take a look at this ball after it hits the crossbar. There were some Hopkins fans, oh, that's not even close. Ball comes off the crossbar and hits the Navy defender. I was wondering why it bounced back behind the cage. It was an unusual angle. But it was Lesor from 5 yards. It's about 4 or 5 shots today, Carter, that Hopkins from close range, they've missed the nets.
And Navy, on its first couple possessions, was just missing. Several misfires to start for the midshipmen.
I think from a tempo standpoint, though, the last 15 minutes this quarter, certainly playing a Hopkins style of half-court game. Look at the graphic. Surprised Hopkins isn't out playing the ball here. 10 seconds to go just to get out and play it a bit. Zone defense.
Bergner lost his stick. Ball rolling free, and that will bring the first half to an end.
I think Bergner threw that with his hand after dropping his stick.
A 3-goal run by Johns Hopkins gives the Blue Jays a 6-3 advantage at halftime. So Navy trying to win for the first time against Johns Hopkins since 1974 finds itself down by 3 goals at the half. Let's check in with Joe Beninati on the sideline.
Carter, thank you. David, in your own words, what about the emotion in that first half?
Look, we knew this was going to be an emotional game. Navy's point to this game for quite some time. It's a great crowd, 2 very good teams, so we knew it was going to be emotional. They came out, got off to a real good start, and I give our kids credit. They showed character, composure, battled their way back, and we're walking in with a 3-goal lead, so I have to feel good about that.
And fine goaltending, too, from Scott Smith in that second quarter.
Yeah, you know, Scott's done a good job. I think we've given him shots that we want to give. We've done a pretty good job for the most part of covering up the inside with Dingman, although we got 1 on the extra man. But we'll see what happens in the second half. It's a long game. We got another 30 minutes where we got to handle a very good offensive squad.
David, thanks for your time. That's Dave Petramala. Carter, it was Smith with 2 big saves on Bassi and Madura in that second quarter.
And it was 3 straight goals for Johns Hopkins to make it 6-3. We'll send you to the CSTV Fieldhouse and the handsome Adam Zucker coming up in a moment. 6-3, Hopkins is on Navy. Back in Annapolis, Maryland, CSTV Lacrosse presented by STX. It's Johns Hopkins with a 3-goal lead over Navy. Carter Blackburn with Quint Kesnick here on CSTV Lacrosse. Quint, as we look back at what happened in the first half, it was Navy getting things started early on.
The frozen rope, Ben Bailey assisted by Billy Looney, but Kyle Harrison dodging the alley so well, 1-to-1. Dingman inside, the big target on the extra man, 2-to-1. Navy led at the end of the first quarter. Pipe shot by Jake Byrne, and then a fortuitous hop for Hopkins. It's Boland inside to Ford. Boom! Barry from the outside. Hopkins starting to get it rolling. Kevin Boland unassisted. And then Kyle Harrison, he's only won 1 of 4 draws. That one was against Tommy Wallen. And watch what he does with the rock. It's in the back of the net. Hopkins 5-3. They would score 1 more goal. Connor Ford from Boland, a 3-goal run for the Blue Jays, and that's the difference right now.
Our halftime statistics presented by STX Lacrosse, and those face-offs tied 5-5. So you look up there, surprising that Johns Hopkins has a 3-goal lead with even face-offs. And the second half face-off is coming up in just a moment from Annapolis, Maryland. 6-3, Johns Hopkins leading Navy at half. CSTV Lacrosse presented by STX. Johns Hopkins 3 straight goals at the end of the first half to take a 6-3 lead as we begin the second half here at Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium. And here are the key face-off numbers.
The face-to-face, Harrison's only victory, as I alluded to, against Tommy Wallen. Pazanka doing a fine job. Steve Looney on the wings with 3 ground balls. Watch out for number 8. Shot out of a cannon going out after most of these balls.
Well, Harrison made the most of this 1 face-off win. This is a procedure call against Navy, but Harrison took it straight to the cage. And we'll see if Johns Hopkins can convert again on a Harrison face-off win. Blue Jays start the second half with possession. Carter Blackburn with Quint Kesnick here on CSTV Lacrosse. From Annapolis, Maryland, Joe Beninati is on the sideline. Rakowski trying to back in there.
I was going to say, Hopkins didn't show much invert offense where they put the midfielders behind the cage. And on that possession, they sniffed it out. They put Rakowski behind the net and they attacked from behind. Nice defense by Navy, though.
Joe on the sideline spoke with Navy coach Richie Meade coming out from the locker room. What did he have to say?
Carter, Richie Meade doesn't want that very many differences to his team in this second half. He did not think that there were major adjustments required. His team was shorthanded 5 times. He said that was unusual for Navy this season, especially to be down 2 men the first time all year. Speaking of 5, Dave Petramala said the first 5 minutes of this third quarter are huge for his team.
Yeah, one thing the Hopkins lead has done, it's kind of quieted this capacity crowd, this record-setting potential crowd here. It's taken them out of the game. If you flash back to the first 10 minutes of the game, this place was absolutely lit up. Navy was playing on a lot of emotion.
We've not yet received the official attendance number, but if it's 20,000, it would be the largest regular season college lacrosse crowd. Breaking the 1987 Maryland Johns Hopkins record when the spry young Gumby goalie named Quint Kesnick was between the pipes for the Blue Jays.
We lost that game, Carter, and I'll tell you, I remember how loud it was on Maryland's first goal.
Graham Gill throws it off the back line. That was what you would call an unforced turnover.
There is Gill. Shawnee, New Jersey, 13 goals on the season.
I'd like to welcome the folks watching on CN8 today on College Sports Television. Joining us for CSTV Lacrosse with Johns Hopkins leading 6-3.
The Looney trio, they are such an important part of this Navy lacrosse team. Brendan Looney on that last possession matched up with Kyle Harrison. But you've seen what Steve Looney can do on the wings of faceoffs, and Billy Looney, number 23, the freshman, has 2 assists. All 3 Looneys went to DeMatha High School, which is really a sports powerhouse in the DC area.
More on the Loonies. Here's Joe Beninati.
Carter, do you realize that they're colorblind? All three of them are colorblind. They're obviously able to tell which team is which today, as that one rings the iron from Jake Byrne. But when you're colorblind at the Naval Academy, it means you're not physically qualified for many of the service selections after graduation. Doesn't seem to be hampering their play today.
No, they have been factors, all three of the Looney brothers. That one,
Oh, what a play.
terrific stick work. Now ahead to Dingman. Dingman whips it right back to Mike Felber, who made that terrific play on the defensive end for Navy.
That's what it's going to start with. A nice ground ball play by Navy. Get this crowd on your feet. Stick one in transition. Hopkins has made this game a half-field game. That favors them. 6-on-6 lacrosse is their style of play. Navy wants to run and gun.
Bailey trying to dodge from the top of the attack zone. Now he'll throw it back out to Billy Looney. Stick side high. Billy Looney gets the first goal of the second half. A much-needed goal for Navy to make it 6-4, the 8th goal of the season for the freshman.
He was a football recruit coming here to the Naval Academy. And look at the rotation of that shot, the way he twists his body, brings the stick back, jump shot, nails the corner. I mean, that is a sensational looking shot from a freshman. Excellent size, Billy Looney, 6'3", 198 pounds. He's only a first year here. He has a bright future, a guy who's really going to mature offensively, I believe, in the next couple of years.
Chris Pizonka in there to take the face-off against Braun for Johns Hopkins, and the Blue Jays control. Braun has been effective in the face-off X for Johns Hopkins today.
Benson Irwin, the junior from Friends School, the same school that produced Kyle Harrison. They were teammates in high school, and now they're teammates in college.
Quint Braun is now 5 of 6 facing off for Johns Hopkins today.
Well, all week, Lou Braun knew that he might be the savior. He might be the guy, with Greg Pizer not dressed today.
Pizer is suspended, the leading face-off man in the nation, at 71% for Johns Hopkins, suspended for violation of team rules. Blue Jays trying to answer back. This is Harrison drawing a lot of attention from Mitch Hindler at the top of the attack zone. Kevin Boland sends that one wide on a tough angle shot.
STX is a proud supporter.
Johns Hopkins backs it up.
STX
Here, take a look at Boland.
Always in the game.
He's had some key goals in his career, key assists. He's the type of player who plays his best in the last 5 minutes of a close game. He's just got an uncommon knack for making a crucial play.
1 goal, 2 assists today for Boland. Rakowski leads that one high. Johns Hopkins wants to get that goal back, Quint.
Yeah, I like Navy's defense today. They're doing an excellent job in their matchups, their one-on-one matchups. As you look at Boland's numbers, they're playing good, fundamentally sound defense, and when they slide, they're getting some nice recoveries behind their slides.
Sliding out now.
See that double team, and then they bounce back and recover. Where their team speed really helps them.
Boland beats his man, now takes it around the back of the cage, feeding Connor Ford. Johns Hopkins working it very quickly through the attack zone, and a nice save from Matt Russell. Point blank range, Russell makes that save, and now Navy a chance to play its transition game. Hindler across the field to Dan Harris. Harris moving in, bounce shot, goes wide, but backed up by John Bershner.
What a terrific flurry of lacrosse. First, the Hopkins offensive possession. You talk about passing and pressure. It was Russell with the point blank save. The clearing pass from Hendler to Harris, that had it all. I mean, that is what makes college lacrosse such a great game right there. You've got the half field scenarios, and then you got the full field rushes.
And that is what Navy wants this second half to be, full field rushes. They're an up and down team, and Johns Hopkins has slowed the pace, leading to a 6-4 Blue Jay advantage.
That throwback play was successful in the first quarter, where Navy dodges from the wing and they throw it back up top center. See how Hopkins likes to slough in so much. Navy thinks that that's a vulnerability in his defense.
Bershner running the invert offense here for Navy. Trying to get someone clearing in front of the cage. Joe Bossie's going to throw it back out, and they'll try from the top of the attack zone. That one looked like it just Didn't come out of the stick right for Matt Madura.
This is the last save by Matt Russell against Matt Rakowski. Well done by Russell. Comes out off his line a bit to cut down the angle. Matches up stick on stick. I think he took that one off the midsection.
5 saves, but he has been put in some tough situations with all the penalties on Navy today. Watson and Hopkins having some trouble clearing.
Just avoided a 10-second clearing violation. The clearing game for both these teams over the season has not been perfect. Really, Hopkins struggled against Virginia. It's one reason they lost to the Cavaliers. 2 turnovers on rides that led to Joe Yavoli and Virginia goals. And then Navy against Maryland, even though Navy won that game, they had 35 turnovers, and a lot of those were in the clearing game. So both these coaches know that that's an area that they need to improve if they're going to walk away with that gold trophy at the end of May.
That is the goal. Dave Petramala talked about taking the pressure off his team. When you come to Johns Hopkins, according to the Blue Jay head coach, your goal is to win a national championship. Everyone knows it. So he feels that his role as head coach is to say, focus the guys on all the small things that lead up to a championship. That's something Petramala said he learned from Bill Tierney, is focusing on the ingredients of winning a championship. Blue Jays 8-1 on the season, ranked #1. Navy trying to come back from a 2-goal deficit. Some great stick work from Russell setting up this transition opportunity. Dingman draws a slide.
Only 1 goal scored this quarter. Billy Looney for Navy. There have not been many whistles. We've already played 9 minutes of this quarter.
Navy trying to set up. Johns Hopkins doing a great job of getting back in those transition situations. You know that Petramala and Johns Hopkins worked on that throughout this week, was slowing down the Navy clear in transition, and it has been effective as the midshipmen only have 4 goals on the day so far.
Arnott got the ball on the carpet with the back check. Navy hustling.
Billy Looney dumps it off to Graham Gill. He gets a step, but leaves it just wide. And a ground ball pickup for Joe McDermott for Johns Hopkins. McDermott brings it all the way down with his short stick. Gets rid of it just in time as Looney was coming from the backside. Say Looney, there's 3 of them out there for Navy. That was Billy Looney. Pace is slowed here in the third. Only 1 goal. That was from Navy. Rakowski trying to change that for Johns Hopkins. Feed out to Connor Ford. Puts a shot on goal. Some physical play, but I think he got him in the face mask.
Russell took that off the grill. Some efficient riding by Hopkins now. They'll get a second chance opportunity. So Hopkins did the same throwback play where they drive one side, throw it back up top, and Ford let that ball go from about 11 yards, but it was Russell. And that ball's on top of you so fast, Carter. It really is scary as a goalie when a guy like Connor Ford, all 225 pounds of him, can let it rip when he sets his feet.
Harrison left-handed shot, but right at the stick of Matt Russell. Long outlet. Ben Bailey trying to beat the Johns Hopkins defense down. Bailey to Dingman. Just missed. Goal number 3, and Dingman knows it. Here it's 6-4, Johns Hopkins on Navy with 4:39 remaining in the third.
How about that 4-on-3? Russell with the save of the Harrison shot. A long, loping outlet pass that caught Bailey in stride. Those are the passes you love to throw as a goalie. You see your guy's got a lead, you just lay it out there for him. It's like a wide receiver catching that touchdown pass.
Speaking of, how about Eli Manning for the Chargers?
Seems like an unhappy camper.
Much more coming up from the Fieldhouse on CSTV Primetime. I mentioned Adam being handsome. Greg Amsinger in the CSTV Fieldhouse today as well. Didn't mean to slide you, Greg. Obviously very good looking as well. This is Steve Looney dodging behind the cage for Navy. Feed out to Dingman. He draws a slide rebound opportunity. Isn't there for John Berster. I think he went in the crease anyway.
Take a look at the shots by quarter. The end result dead even. Hopkins winning this quarter in terms of shots. Navy winning this quarter on the scoreboard. You can see Navy's flurry of 12 shots in the first quarter. They came out with amazing emotion and energy. It's almost like Hopkins has kind of drained that out of them. I think the next goal in this game, looking at the score, is going to be a real big goal.
Kyle Berry trying to give that goal to Johns Hopkins. Back out to Byrne. You mean the next goal being big just because of the way the game is slowed down?
Spread, exactly. Hopkins goes up by 3. That'll allow them to control the tempo. And you see how precise they are on offense. They can really kill some clock if they want to. Navy would then be forced to attack.
Byrne moves in.
A Navy goal would have this crowd buzzing again.
Well, we said before this game that a raucous Navy crowd may be good for 1 or 2 goals. Well, now that this crowd is dead, is that good for 1 or 2 goals on the Johns Hopkins side?
Well, Coach Meade talked about making it a 60-minute game, standing toe-to-toe with Hopkins for 60 minutes.
Bounce shot, Russell.
That will get these fans on their feet.
Russell covers up. Well, he came out a goal, got right back, saved the bounce shot, covered it up.
I am struggling to find a goalie that I can compare Matt Russell to in terms of styles. You know, his idol is Greg Petrano.
There's that goal, Quinn. Steve Looney puts it home. You said the next one would be huge, and it's Looney and Navy getting exactly the type of goal they wanted in transition to make this a 1-goal game.
A Looney has been involved in 4 out of the 5 Naval Academy goals. Steve Looney takes this to the rack strong, runs through 2 Hopkins defenders. He dives. He's got 9 goals on the season. He's got the green light to take it to the rack, and you just saw why. Making plays in transition. 2 straight for the Naval Academy, and this place is once again back on their feet with their yellow thunder sticks.
The midshipman with the first 2 goals of the second half. A face-off win. Pecanza dives on that one and somehow manages to cover up.
And didn't look right there from Pizanka.
Thank you, Pizanka. I mispronounced it.
As he was going for that ground ball, it's like he stepped in a hole or something, or hyperextended his leg, because he's off right now on the bench. Slammed his stick down. He is hurt. There's a foul coming up against Johns Hopkins, so Navy will go on the extra man with a chance to tie this ball game. The ebb and flow of college lacrosse, it's all about momentum. Here's this last face-off. Excuse me, that's the foul right there, the slashing violation. The ball drops and the whistle will blow.
30-second penalty on Harden, so it's an extra man advantage with 30 seconds for Navy. Johns Hopkins had a 3-goal run into halftime. Navy trying to make it 3 straight here in the 3rd. It's the excellent man-down defense for the Blue Jays. Ian Dingman gets a look, but Scott Smith is down low to make the save.
Big body save by Smith. That's Dingman's spot. He's got a goal from that identical spot on the field in the 2nd quarter.
Vincent Irwin man down, and now the penalty is released. Back to even straight between Johns Hopkins and Navy, and the Blue Jays kill off a key extra man opportunity for the midshipmen.
Good save by Smith on Dingman. Hopkins will probably want to end the quarter down here as they did earlier in the game.
Poland trying to get a step on Graham Gill. 2-way midfielder for Navy back there playing defense. Upcoming penalty on Navy.
Off-ball violation right there. Could be interference, could be holding.
Next dead ball, we'll find out what the penalty is. Kowski's going to pull it back. Johns Hopkins may want to keep this ball until the start of the 4th to have some time to set up the extra man unit. We'll see. Rakowski with 10 seconds behind the cage. Takes it back the other way, looking for a cutter. Bolin inside, and Johns Hopkins steals a goal. Connor Ford at the end of the third.
How much time was left? They are giving the Hopkins credit for that goal. Hopkins patient, patient, patient. The clock ticking down under 10 seconds. Tiptoeing the crease, one touch past the defenseless Russell. And the Bronco, Connor Ford, now has the hat trick.
And that is the end of the third. Johns Hopkins gets a late goal to make it 7-5. We're headed to the fourth on CSTV Lacrosse.
This
CSTV Lacrosse presented by STX Lacrosse. There was 1 second remaining at the end of the third. They faced off very quickly. And as we head to the fourth now officially, it is Johns Hopkins leading Navy 7-5. Let's head down to the sideline and Joe Beninati.
Carter, thank you. I'm here with a very special guest. It's the Hopkins honorary captain for today, 14-year-old Michael Kane, who's fighting leukemia. Michael, I know you've loved these Hopkins Blue Jays for a long time. What is it about lacrosse that really, really makes you smile?
I don't know, it's just a fun sport, fun to play, fun to watch. That's about it.
It's great to see you wearing a number 18 throwback jersey. Kyle Harrison is your favorite player.
Yeah, he's just amazing, you know? He's just an amazing athlete.
You've been following the Blue Jays for so long. You know what? As hard as you cheer for them, I guarantee you they're cheering doubly for you in your fight against leukemia. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
Michael, thank you. Back to you, Carter.
Thank you very much, Joe. And there is Kyle Harrison, who will be facing off here for Johns Hopkins.
See that jersey that Michael was wearing, the retro jersey from last week's Maryland Hopkins game, auctioned off after the game for charity. Johns Hopkins and the University of Maryland raised over $18,000 for the Johns Hopkins Children's Center in downtown Baltimore. So a wonderful idea by Hopkins to raise some money for charity.
And Harrison called for a legal procedure before the ball is even placed down for the faceoff, which is key for Navy because now the midshipmen, a man down, get the ball to start the fourth quarter. And that's a key ground ball for Navy. Picked up by Graham Gill. So the midshipmen down a man will try to kill off this penalty.
Well, that is a rare mental mistake by Kyle Harrison right there. You have a man-up face-off, and that's a cardinal sin. Now, if you're Hopkins, you can double the ball here, step out and press, because you have an extra guy. They're choosing not to. Their extra man, Chris Watson, number 43, he's perched right in front of the crease. So Hopkins playing it conservatively right now. But Harrison with a mental mistake. You can't move early, especially in a man-up face-off.
Dave Petramala cannot be happy with watching the clock tick away. In a man-up situation, you don't have the ball because of a procedure call on the face-off. Kyle Harrison.
It wasn't a Harrison moving early. I think it was the type of scenario where the referee said, Kyle, move your stick a certain way, please. You're over the line or whatever. And maybe Kyle didn't do it initially, and so the ref said, I've had enough of that. Navy ball.
And Navy kills off that extra man opportunity for Johns Hopkins. Back to even strength. Dingman trying to back his way in for the midshipman, draws the slide as Harned comes over, and Dingman has to pass out of it back up to Billy Lee.
248 pounds Dingman against 185 Tom Garvey. You do the math. That's why Harned had to double team.
Carter Blackburn with Quinn Kesnick and Joe Beninati here from Annapolis, Maryland.
Some of the finest food that Dingman and I've ever had is in Bancroft Hall right here. My brother graduated the Naval Academy. I remember eating with the Navy lacrosse team when I was a kid, and it was quite a feast.
Versner bounce pass across. So you're saying it's no wonder that Dingman is up to 248 now.
There were rumors that Dingman had his weight up to 270 during the offseason. And he's a slimmed down 248.
Lee. Harrison on the clear, slips and falls and manages to hang on to it, give it back to Kevin Bolin for Johns Hopkins. The top two teams in college lacrosse meeting today on CSTV. And the Naval Academy trying to stop a 29-game losing streak to Johns Hopkins back to May of 1974 was the last time that Navy beat Johns Hopkins.
Last year's game, 17-3, but you knew this matchup would be a one-goal affair, as the last three here between these two teams have been. For some reason, when this game comes to Annapolis, it's a dogfight.
Navy coach Richie Meade said the biggest improvement of his team, which is a victory away from tying the school record for wins in a season, has been its performance in tight games. Kyle Berry nearly made this a three-goal game again. Pass out in front. Berry finds the ball once again, and Navy.
Basanko with that pickoff right there. That ball was headed to Connor Ford for a 10-yard shot. Jared Basanko, where's that knee brace on his left leg? Got to stick up in the passing lane.
Rakowski trying to dodge in against Clipper Lennon.
Clipper Lennon so tough defensively. Look at him bearing down with the cross check.
Save from Russell. That may have gone off the pipe as well, the way he came shooting out of there. Hopkins is irate. There's not a tripping call.
That should be a foul. You can't hit a guy while he's down on the ground. And it's going to be a loose ball push.
Easily could have been a flag there.
And you hear Petromalo say, Brian, it's a time-serving penalty.
Loose ball, Brian.
Exactly. You cannot hit a man while he's down on the ground.
All right.
McDermott off the pipe from close range. Unofficially the third pipe shot for Johns Hopkins, maybe even more. I think Burns got two, and McDermott has one.
So we should give 3 saves to the Navy pipe today as well. Rakowski trying to dodge in, and he nearly snuck that one on the no-angle shot off the side.
Clipper Lennon, Loyola High School.
And here's our official attendance, 18,694, just shy of that 1987 Johns Hopkins Maryland game. So Quint, you get to keep your record.
Wow. That was a time when the University of Maryland was dealing with the death of Len Bias. It was about 2 years later, I believe. And Maryland's lacrosse team was undefeated. They captured some magic that spring, and the entire student body really fell in line.
With 4 saves for the pipe now, Quint.
Harrison rattles that one off the near post. Hedler running for his life. Dangerous pass over the middle.
This is a key ground ball, and it's going to go to Johns Hopkins, scooped up by Kevin Boland. Navy trying to ride hard. It's on the ground again. This time Navy comes up with it. This is Joe Fossey coming back to pick up a key ground ball, giving Navy possession with under 10 minutes remaining in a 2-goal game.
Those are the type of scrappy situations that Navy's been dominating all season and then converting into goals.
Let's see if the midshipmen can convert this one into a goal. Ben Bailey from near midfield gets a running start. A little shove there on Bailey. Slide comes over. So Bailey pulls it back around. One hand, Cradle lines up. Give him a goal and a penalty. Bailey makes this a 1-goal game. He just wanted that one-on-one. He took the one-handed Cradle and forces home the 6th Navy goal of the day.
Bailey posting up against Benson Irwin. The defense was pretty good, but this shot was uncommon. It nailed the corner. Absolutely. Watch the location of this shot. No goalie in the world is going to make this save.
2nd goal of the day for Bailey, and it's a 1-goal game in Annapolis. CSTV Lacrosse presented by STX, now a 1-goal game as #1 Johns Hopkins is trying to hang on against Navy. Time to check our Lax World out-of-town scores from the ACC tournament. Virginia gets a much-needed win over North Carolina.
And Maryland beats Duke. That action the last night, Friday night from Charlottesville. The championship games in the ACC will be played tomorrow. So Virginia staying alive for the NCAA tournament.
There is no automatic qualifier from the ACC, so even if Virginia wins in the championship, Cavaliers aren't guaranteed a spot. But I think if you're the defending national champs, you play a tough schedule and you get some key wins late. UVA has a pretty strong case.
Well, the question for UVA was, were they going to get to 500 on their record? They needed to win that ball game.
Another key face-off, and you can tell by the battle for this ground ball exactly what that means. Harden comes up with it off the wing.
Talk about selling out on a ground ball. Brendan Looney, Steve Looney, Graham Gill. Steve Looney, who took that face-off, because Pazanka, I believe, is still on the bench. But you see the guys diving for the ball.
So if Pazanka's on the bench, that means that neither Johns Hopkins or Navy has its #1 face-off guy. Let's check in with Joe on the sideline for an update on Pazanka.
Carter, Pazanka is the Iceman because of his, well, it looks exactly like Iceman in Top Gun, Val Kilmer. He's their best face-off guy, and they were working on his right leg, the back of his right leg, hamstring area. He likes the scrums off the face-off. He got injured in one of those in the third quarter. Back to you.
Thank you, Joe.
Looks like he took a bad step and maybe hyperextended it, or just popped the hammy a bit. But Steve Looney had some success last year against Johns Hopkins as a face-off guy, and he took that last draw. So Looney has not taken a draw all season, practices his face-offs every day. He's renowned for his wing play, and here he is taking a big face-off late in the game.
So he would be more the goose in that situation compared to the Iceman.
Russell
rolling all the way down to 10 yards out. Navy in an unsettled situation. Big stick check 10 yards away from the goal. Looney breaks free. On the crease, Looney finds Joe Posse, and we are tied in Annapolis.
Check after check after check. Steve Looney actually thought he lost this ball. He looked at the head of his stick saying, I can't believe I still have it. Watch his head. Right here. He doesn't know where it is. It actually popped out of his stick, popped back in. He finds Posse. It's in the back of the net. And guess what, folks? We are tied up at 7. And Steve Looney has been such a big threat for Navy. Posse's first shot of the day yields his 31st goal of the season.
Gwen, that may be the best play we've seen on CSTV Lacrosse this year.
This guy, Steve Looney, plays on a different plane in terms of his energy and his playmaking ability. I mean, he is just jacked up. Every time he gets the ball, it's 100% to the goal, confidence.
Tie game 7-7. Let's quickly check in with Joe on the sideline.
Carter, during the week, Dave Petramala invited me into practice, into the dressing room, and he was talking about Steve Looney to his guys with the ultimate of respect. He has a great deal of respect for what Looney can contribute on the field, and we just got a first-hand look at it. His guys knew that number 8 would be involved today.
Now he's making Dave Petramala a little bit tense on the sideline in a tie game, 7-7, less than 7 remaining. LeSueur and Johns Hopkins trying to change that. Feed out to Kyle Berry. Berry loses it and quickly finds it back. This Navy crowd.
Watching that play by Steve Looney. Look at the D by Navy. Mike Felber stepping out against Kyle Berry. All over him one-on-one, and Hopkins is sloppy with the passing. But that play by Steve Looney, Carter, reminded me of last week's Hopkins-Maryland game. Frank Patuchek scores a goal for Hopkins to put him up by 7 goals, and Coach Cottle of Maryland calls a stick check on Patuchek, who ran through 6 guys just like Looney did. And that was a controversial play. Petramala had some, not derogatory, but some things to say about the stick check. He called it, quote-unquote, a Bush League call by Cottle. It was not a Bush League call. That was what Dave Cottle had to do to win that game. Petramala eventually apologized to Coach Cottle, both personally and publicly. And that was a big storyline coming out of last week's Hopkins-Maryland game.
That was a game that Johns Hopkins won over Maryland, 14-10, to remain the #1 team in the country. Navy trying to change that. Navy takes the lead. Ben Bailey with his 3rd goal of the day gives the midshipmen the lead. at 8-7. Nine goals on the year coming in for Ben Bailey, and now he has 3 against Hopkins.
Coach Richie Meade sensed it. He told us in our conference call, he said Ben Bailey is finding his shooting form, and how right the coach was. He sensed that Bailey was ready to emerge. He's got the hat trick. Hopkins against the rope, and they call timeout.
Timeout, Johns Hopkins. The Blue Jays trail by 1 in Annapolis.
Good call.
CSTV Lacrosse presented by STX, and it is turning into a classic Johns Hopkins Navy matchup, a 1-goal game again between the Blue Jays and the Midshipmen.
Take a look at these two teams in 1-goal games. Hopkins under Dave Petramala, the success 15-4. Petramala coaching Hopkins to 15 1-goal wins. Then, contrary, Richie Meade here at the Naval Academy. You talk about a bad luck team. They're 6-14 since 1999 in 1-goal games, but that has changed this season. This team has confidence that they can win the 1-goal game.
Ford misses that chance off the faceoff. Looney clearing for Navy. Looney to the wing. 1 extra touch pass. Goal! Joe Bossy found the back of the net. And what a dramatic turnaround from Johns Hopkins having an open look for Connor Ford to Bossy converting on the fast break chance.
Bossy from Bersner, from Dingman, from Looney. It started with Ford. There he is again, folks. Steve Looney to Dingman. Tic-tac-toe. This place is absolutely jacked up. That's Navy lacrosse this season. Run and gun transition. Unbelievable emotion.
The two things that Navy has done well this year, play in transition and winning those 1-goal games, winning the close games. Another face-off win, though, for Braun and Johns Hopkins' second straight, as Pazonka is back in the face-off X for Navy.
5 minutes to go, Navy. Take a look at the trends right there. We've got 4 ties. Navy has now scored 4 straight goals after trailing 7-5. Remember, it was Connor Ford who scored that goal with 1 second to go in the 3rd quarter. Since then, it's been Bailey, Bossy, Bailey, and Bossy.
Harrison trying to move in. How did he sneak that one in? Right over the top of Matt Russell to make it a 1-goal game again.
Kyle Harrison has the hat trick. He was the man 2 years ago with the game winner when Hopkins beat Navy 7-6. Watch how this high motion, watch him jump, and that ball's just a rope that nails the far corner, just missing Russell's stick by about an inch.
Dave Petramala told his guys in the huddle, stop hitting the post, only half jokingly. And Harrison just does sneak that one in under the high post, and now Harrison in on the faceoff. There's Tommy Walling facing off for Navy.
How long this ball's on the ground. A legal procedure against Navy. Must have been some kind of hold or off-ball interference.
Midshipman crowd doesn't like it.
Navy's assistant coaches, John Tillman and Mark Goers. Mark Goers really known for his work with the face-off area, and John Tillman, their offensive coordinator. I love the dichotomy of the Naval Academy staff. You got Ray Finnegan, the veteran.
Approaching 4 minutes remaining in a 1-goal game. Navy trying to beat Johns Hopkins for the first time since 1974. Rakowski.
Russell made the save. You can hear it hit his helmet.
Matt Russell comes up with a huge save for the midshipmen. Navy trying to get another transition opportunity here.
Coach Meade will use a timeout here. And he does. He called it, and then he didn't want it. That happens so often. But that was a possession-saving timeout by Coach Meade.
Timeout called. Navy timeout.
So the midshipman huddle with 3:32 remaining in a one-goal game. Navy can tie a school record with its 11th win here. We'll listen in to Dave Petromala.
We're going to go with our defensive group. Okay, we're going to go with our defensive group. We may have to get a little aggressive. Okay, we may have to get a little aggressive. Scott, if I tap my head, I want to patch it. Okay? We got to play defense. I don't know if they're going to hold the ball here. They may try to hold it for the rest of the game. Okay? Be a little aggressive. Cover up the inside. No fouls. No fouls. Okay? We got to come. Cover up. Clear first time. Watch the offense where they set the pick. Do not. Heads too far. Understand? Fellas, there's 3:38 left. We're certainly still in this game, but we can't let them sit on the whole quarter. So be ready. Look to me.
You want to go to Dingman if we can?
Yeah, I would like you go to Dingman if we can and send Tom the double. That means everybody will have to shut off if we go to Apache. Okay, right now they're gonna probably give the ball to 12, who's their best athlete, or 6 with a short. Be ready to pressure them, but don't panic right now. Understood?
That's Dave Petromala, the Johns Hopkins huddle. Let's check in with Joe in the Navy huddle.
Carter, it's like Dave Petromala has an ear into this Navy huddle, because the Navy offensive coordinator, Coach Tillman's talking about watching out for the double team, keeping the ball on the side. They want to milk the clock right now. They are not going to go to the goal quickly. They want possession, and they want width. They want good spacing in their offense, and they are very, very alert, waiting for Hopkins to double. Back to you.
Both teams have one timeout remaining at the 2-minute mark. Navy will be asked to keep the ball in the offensive box. These lacrosse lines are the yellow lines, and the offensive box is at the 30-yard line. Take a look at Hopkins and the troubles that they have had playing on natural grass. 45 seconds typically is what the referees will give a offensive team, and then they'll warn them for stalling.
Bailey, with 3 goals on the day, has the ball in his stick. Now back out to Billy Looney.
Navy using a 2-man play here on the wing. They've isolated Johns Hopkins short sticks, Matt Field and Benson Irwin. It's Billy Looney and Ben Bailey just playing catch back and forth.
And trying to eat some clock.
The other 4 Navy players are on the far side of the field.
Bailey slips and falls. Loose ball picked up by Harnett and Johns Hopkins. Loose ball right in front of the cage, trying to cover up.
10-second violation. Smith has got to just send this.
Goalie interference potentially coming up here, Quinn?
No, I can't believe
Penalty flag on the field.
that the referee is going to give Smith an unsportsmanlike conduct, I believe. Or a slashing violation for throwing the ball intentionally at Ian Dingman. Let's watch. Right there, he hit Bossy. And that's a judgment call.
Yeah.
Penalty flag on the field.
And Dingman waves bye-bye to Scott Smith, because he now has to come over to the penalty box, and it will be Jesse Schwartzman taking over in goal.
At 2:41 and the 4th.
There was a play-on violation. I think Hopkins would have gotten the ball. And Smith throws the ball, looking to get the interference call. It's actually a smart play. He just overdid it. He throws it too hard and makes contact with Bossy in the head. Whittlesberger thought it was intentional, which is probably the right call. And so now we have the man-up advantage.
And the freshman goalie from Owings Mills, Maryland, Jesse Schwartzman, playing his 7th game of his college career, facing an extra man opportunity here for Navy. Midshipman will like to run this clock down, most likely, on the man up. Graham Gill gets a step, and then he pulls it back out.
At the 2-minute mark, Navy's going to have to keep the ball in the offensive box, which will, actually, they're being warned for stalling right now.
So they have to keep it inside the yellow lines. Dangerous pass.
Deflected out of bounds. But the ball goes out of the box before it goes out of bounds. So it's Johns Hopkins' ball.
Explain that call.
I'm not sure. Navy's saying it's deflected. Ball's out of the box before it goes out of bounds.
Huge call for Johns Hopkins, because now they can kill off the extra man, but just as importantly, the Blue Jays get the ball with 2:02 left in a 1-goal game.
This is a tough clear right here. Surprised Kyle Harrison's not in the game to leg this ball out. It'll be Benson Irwin.
And with Scott Smith in the penalty box, Johns Hopkins is going to take some pressure off the freshman goalie Schwartzman. This is Schwartzman trying to help out on the clear here. Leaves that pass high.
Pinto running for his life.
And just to run it into the attack zone and give it to Kyle Berry.
That's a quality clear by Matt Pinto, because he looked like he was cornered. These fans now coming to their feet.
Hoping for one last defensive stand here against Johns Hopkins. Penalty coming up. Thrown at the bench area. Rakowski trying to move in. Johns Hopkins hoping for a tying goal here with 1:20 remaining in Annapolis. Rakowski brings it around the left side, forced out. He'll give it up. Feet on the backside, save Russell. And a whistle inside. Russell got low to save the shot from LeSueur.
Maybe some kind of violation on the Navy bench. I think it was one of the assistant coaches yelling at the official. Too many men. Wow, some kind of substitution violation. You knew it wasn't going to be easy either way.
The Schwartzman penalty is released now. Scott Smith is back at goal for Johns Hopkins. But an extra man opportunity. Boy, they have put a lot of pressure on Russell at goal today. Not only Johns Hopkins, but Russell's own team with all the penalties. 30-second man advantage for top-ranked Johns Hopkins, trying to tie this game against Navy. Connor Ford gets it over to Bolin, now back to Ford, top of the box. Kyle Berry with 17 seconds remaining on the man up.
Good defense so far.
Ford down low, puts it up high, tied. Even at 9 on the extra man. Costly penalty by Navy.
Connor Ford, the Broncos got 4. Hopkins unofficially with 3 extra man goals. The location of this shot, it's Bolin to Ford, and he nails the near corner, that low to high motion, the elevator shot. Watch the stick head of Matt Russell. Let's see if the goalie who's played to it, let's see if he drops his stick. Yes, he does. He drops that stick, and Ford capitalizes the low to high whip shot.
Connor Ford with the extra man goal ties this game at 9-9. A 2-goal Navy lead disappears in the final minutes.
Look for a timeout here when Navy gets us on the other side of the midfield line. They don't call it.
Looney dodging in, feet on the left side, Dingman forced out. And now with near 30 seconds left, the midshipman will try for a game-winning goal. They don't take the timeout. This is Dingman back of the cage. Dingman and Garvey.
Got a double early here if you're Johns Hopkins. Look for Dingman to swing it when he sees the double team come.
10 seconds left. Dingman slips and falls. Garvey stick checking him. Dingman behind the cage, feet out high. One last chance for Looney. Off the side of the cage. And that is the end of regulation.
At the end of regulation, all time.
Sudden victory overtime here at Navy Marine Corps Stadium. These fans, 18,000 of them, have been treated to an amazing Navy comeback. But Hopkins answered with Ford late.
Even 9-9. Overtime coming up. CSTV Lacrosse presented by STX. We head to overtime between #1 Johns Hopkins and second-ranked Navy. Let's check our Lax World out-of-town scores. Some Ivy League action with Cornell, a huge overtime win over Princeton.
Oh, you got to feel Cornell's a team of destiny, and then Georgetown beating UMass. Cornell now back-to-back weekends where they go into overtime. Excuse me, not overtime, but our game was basically overtime, 3 seconds to go. Here we go.
Braun wins the faceoff. This could be the end. Stick save, Russell. Stoning Kyle Berry, and we play on.
Lou Braun popped the faceoff clean. It was a sensational job, but Barry got stuffed by Russell.
Looney through the midfield for Navy.
Petramala historically would call timeout on that faceoff victory, but Braun popped it so clean that he let it play out, and his All-American Barry was stuffed by Matt Russell.
So Navy sets up. Let's check in with Joe Beninati on the sideline. We'll check in with Joe momentarily. Looney misses on that shot after the feed from Dingman. Harrison picks it back. Harrison in transition for Johns Hopkins. Berry inside, stick checked away. Navy brings it right back. A furious start to overtime.
2 bullets dodged by the Naval Academy. Hopkins with 2 clear fast breaks. Trouble.
Graham Gill just missed it wide.
I like Coach Richie Meade. He's got guts. He's a gunslinger. He's not calling timeout here and let Hopkins get organized. Let's play lacrosse.
Couldn't ask for a better day on CSTV Lacrosse. Dingman is trying to end it. Ian Dingman backing in on Garvey. He's forced out. Dingman will take it one more time. No slide coming. One-on-one, Dingman backing in. Gets knocked out of there. Ground ball, still loose.
Play on crease violation against Ian Dingman, the former high school teammate of Mike Powell, and the Hopkins bench wants to delay a game right there. Here's the save. Look at Dingman posting up like the Shaq. Leans in, his toe is on the crease. Garvey getting down low. He's giving away 65 pounds of bulk against Dingman, who's basically the Hulk with a lacrosse stick.
Garvey has done a terrific job on Dingman today.
You'll see a timeout right here, you will. Coach Petramala is sick and tired of watching his team squander 4-on-3 fast breaks and calls timeout.
Well, they missed 2 opportunities already to Johns Hopkins in transition. So we're still tied 9-9. We'll listen in.
Hey, I want the black midfield right here, and the attack, I want everybody else right here. Just understand this, there's absolutely no transition. Understood? Okay, fellas, come on in here.
Let's go, boys. Let's go. Sell out. High low. If the short is on Roop, we dodge with Roop. If the short is on Bo, we dodge with Bo. I want the opposite wing down. I want to follow. Hey, if we don't follow, then clear and come this way. Make sure we're in white. Hey, Lesueur, you're going early. And make sure Barry's coming this way. Hey, patience. Keep defense in mind.
That's Seth Tierney in the Johns Hopkins huddle. Let's check in with Joe in the Navy huddle.
Carter, what else would you expect from Richie Meade? He looked his defense in the eye and screamed, fight hard, play with passion. Petramala moments ago looked at his guys and said, this is the moment you've been waiting for. The energy at field level, guys, is unreal.
Energy all over this stadium is unreal. 9-9 between #1 Johns Hopkins and #2 Navy. We heard Seth Tierney talking to his guys.
Talking?
Screaming.
Typical,
what was he saying?
They're just going to run their motion offense. The question was where the short sticks were going to line up. Rakowski draws a short, as does Connor Ford. So I think you'll see Matt Rakowski trigger the offense here, try to draw the double team.
Rakowski draws the slide, feet across on the backside, whiff on the pass to Lesueur. Russell is out of goal. Russell's out of goal. Johns Hopkins can't get a shot down while Russell was chasing it to the sideline.
Lesueur fanned is right, but then he and Barry earned the ball back from Matt Russell, who was very aggressive on that loose ball. Harrison's been a hero late in Navy games for Hopkins.
Olin lining up. You wonder how many opportunities Johns Hopkins is going to miss. You can count 3 of them in overtime. Olin feeds across, another missed opportunity as Rakowski leaves it wide.
Rakowski to the far post. Not sure if Russell got a piece of that. He was shaking his hand, but there's Matt Rakowski. Let that rip. The tension. The tension.
Lesueur brings a play back in for Johns Hopkins. If Navy wins, the midshipmen become the #1 ranked team in 2004, a year after they won only 6 games in 2003.
They will snap 29 years of frustration.
First, they have to get the ball back. Johns Hopkins with just 25 seconds remaining in overtime. Rakowski moves in. A goal wins it. Feed out to Lesueur. Navy collapses.
Clock becomes a factor right here. Now Hopkins got to go to the goal. I'm not sure Rakowski understands how little time is left.
Now he looks up, sees the clock, moves in, gets a step. Man falls down, feet across. Ford ends it. Connor Ford sneaks it below Matt Russell, and Johns Hopkins makes it 30 consecutive wins against the Naval Academy.
Stunned silence here in Annapolis. Connor Ford's 5th goal of the game on a backside feed by Matt Rakowski. And for Ford, it was a magical shot. Just to catch the ball in traffic was hard enough. And out of a mass of bodies, Ford, with the little flick shot, puts the ball past the net. It was a tough play to read. Hats off to the Naval Academy lacrosse team. Look out for these guys in the NCAA tournament. And Hopkins somehow, again, finds a way to win.
#1 Johns Hopkins survives with a 10-9 overtime win. The Blue Jays now 9-1 on the season. They end a 9-game winning streak by the Navy midshipmen. Let's take a look at this game-winning goal by Connor Ford.
Tell you, these fans right here now giving both teams a standing ovation. But the replay, Rakowski pushing to the net. There's about 5 seconds to go. No angle. Ford is well covered, and somehow the Bronco catches this and redirects through two sticks. Not the fastest shot, but it nails the corner. His 5th goal of the game. 30 years in a row, Hopkins has beaten the Naval Academy. And these fans now are on their feet saluting both teams.
The streak continues, the longest in college lacrosse with 30 consecutive wins. Johns Hopkins over Navy. The midshipmen had a 2-goal advantage late in this game. Hopkins ties it to force overtime, and then in the waning seconds, Connor Ford gives the Blue Jays a 10-9 win. Much more coming up from Annapolis on CSTV Lacrosse. Johns Hopkins wins it. From Annapolis, Maryland, 10-9, a heartbreaking loss for Navy and a thrilling win for Johns Hopkins. The #1 ranked Blue Jays win 10-9 in overtime. Let's take a look at our players of the game here on CSTV Lacrosse, brought to you by STX.
Connor Ford, the Bronco, 5 goals, including the last 2, the game-tying goal and the game winner in sudden victory.
1 goal, 1 assist for Steve Looney.
Talk about making plays, though, Carter. Steve Looney was all the way, all over the field today.
Navy was hoping for its first win over Johns Hopkins since 1974. Instead, Johns Hopkins a 10-9 win. Joe Beninati's on the field with the winning head coach, Dave Petramala.
Oh, Carter, much appreciated. David, how many times did your heart stop in overtime?
Couple. I'll tell you what. Those are two, that was a heck of a lacrosse game. The fans were treated to a great game, and a lot of credit to Navy. As I told you, you knew all week that we had a lot of respect for them, and they gave us everything we could handle. Either team could have won that game, and, you know, deservedly 1-2 in the country. So it was a great game, and we're just happy and fortunate to come away with a win in a tough place to get one.
Guts and grit determining the win for your team today. During the week, you said, you know, our guys are getting tired of hearing about this is the week we're going to lose. This is the week we're going to lose. How does this shape up for the rest of the regular season and the tournament to come?
Well, you know, rankings don't mean a whole lot to us, but when you do have a high ranking, as Navy knows, you know, people gun for you, and every week it's their big game and their big game, and you know, we've taken on a lot of big games so far, and guys have shown a lot of character, and they showed a lot of character against a group that's made a character, so I'm very proud of our guys today. We also, just so you know, we played this game for a young man by the name of Michael Kane, and boy, I'm so proud of our guys for giving that young man a smile on his face in such a difficult time.
Your honorary captain today, he has so much fight in him. Game-winning goal, Connor Ford ties an individual record for himself. He scores 5 times today. What was the secret to success in overtime?
Well, you know, the secret we thought was going to be having the ball. And, you know, we get the opening face-off. We go down, fast break, no goal. They come back down. We get the ball back, fast break, no goal. You know, so I was getting a little worried there that we were going to start pressing. And, you know, we came up with the stops we needed in the defensive end. I thought our defense did a pretty good job there. You know, they had an opportunity with a shot. We came up with a tough ground ball and went down the other end, called the timeout. And Seth Tierney set up a play. The play didn't really come to fruition, and a loose ball, and we just made a play.
You explained to us Connor Ford has the ability to stretch the defense. That's got to be a very, very big goal. Where does this win rank for you in a program that achieves so many big wins?
It's another big win. You know, what's exciting is the way you did it against such a classy group of players from Navy and a classy coaching staff. So, you know, that makes it special because you know you earned your win against this group. But it's another big win, and, you know, we can enjoy it for the night. And tomorrow we got to move on and start getting ready for Towson, who's a very good team.
David, this was a tremendous event. Thanks very much.
Thanks for having us be a part of it.
Dave Petramala, the head coach for Johns Hopkins, victorious in overtime. Carter, it's yours.
Thanks, Joe and Dave. Quint, you're a former teammate of Dave Petramala's with Johns Hopkins, and this is yet another of those wins that Johns Hopkins just managed to find a way to come back and win this game in overtime.
Petramala now 16-4 for his career at Johns Hopkins in 1-goal games, and this game was just as he scripted it. I mean, you looked at the numbers, you said this is going to be close. It's going to be somewhere around, you know, anywhere I thought between 10-7, 10-10, 10-9, somewhere around there. That's the way it ended. For Navy, another excruciating loss at the hands of Johns Hopkins. But this Navy team, let me tell you, they showed me something today, and I think we're going to see them deep in the NCAA playoffs.
Much more coming up from Annapolis. Final score, though, 10-9, Johns Hopkins over Navy. For Quint Kasnick and Joe Beninati, I'm Carter Blackburn. For more, log on to collegesports.com. This has been a presentation of CSTV, #1 in college sports. Now to the field house for Adam and Greg.
Wow. For the #1 Hopkins men, just another tough game against a ranked team today. But for #2 Navy, the biggest game in decades. A chance to beat the Blue Jays for the first time in 30 years. The midshipmen had home field in Annapolis, where they played some pretty close ones lately, trying to beat the #1 team in the country for the second time in 3 weeks. Less than 6 minutes into the game, we're tied at 7. Navy attacking, and it's Ben Bailey, overhand from deep. Navy up 8-7. It was his third of the game. Later that quarter, Navy up 1. Steve Looney pressing the ball movement. Senior Joe Bossy is bossy. Navy up 9-7. The bench is pumped. Less than 5 minutes later, Hopkins down 2. Kyle Harrison with the jump shot goal. Hopkins within 1. Less than a minute to go. Hopkins down 1. Kevin Boland feeding Connor Ford. Underhand top shelf. We're tied at 9 and going to OT. And in OT, Matt Rakowski hits Connor Ford, and Ford sneaks it in there. His 5th of the day. Hopkins wins it 10-9. Storming the field at Navy #1 over #2 right here on CSTV. A 30-game winning streak over Navy. That is the longest in lacrosse. 5 of the last 6 in Annapolis have been 1-goal wins for the Blue Jays.
Well, Navy battled very hard, but Hopkins remains top dog in this one. With more on today's classic game, let's head back to Annapolis for a complete recap with Carter and Quint. Guys.
Thank you very much, Greg. This was all that you could ask for in a college lacrosse game. 1 versus 2. It goes to overtime, and somehow Johns Hopkins manages to pull out another win over Navy.
Yeah, Hopkins had the lead 7-5 in the second half, but then Navy came back 4 straight goals. It was Ben Bailey doing most of the damage, and Steve Looney in transition. What a great game he had. What about the goaltending of Matt Russell making save after save after save? Hopkins was against the ropes, but they were bailed out. Too many men on the field by Navy with 1:07 to go in the game. Connor Ford's extra man tied it up 9 apiece, and then in overtime, Hopkins had 2 great chances. Finally, they called timeout. They get the ball behind, and it was kind of a fluky goal. It was well defended. Navy had 2 sticks on Connor Ford, but somehow he made the shot.
It was a very difficult shot for Connor Ford and Johns Hopkins, yet he manages to get it in goal and give Johns Hopkins a 10-9 win, and Joe Beninati is standing by.
He's been busy talking to reporters and now sharing his thoughts with us on CSTV. Connor, the game-winning goal for you, a guy who shoots the ball upwards of 100 miles an hour. That wasn't a bullet, but it made the back of the cage, didn't it?
Yeah, I think with just a few seconds left there, I was really trying to just get something on cage, and I got to hand it to Matt Rakowski for making the play there and getting me the ball, really.
There are so many offensive weapons on this Hopkins team. Connor, you filter in among the ranks. When you're going well, how well do you sprinkle it around?
I guess it really depends week to week on who they're deciding to cover with long poles and short poles, because we tend to try to attack the short sticks, and then it sort of opens up for the other guys from there as they fill.
It was a magical atmosphere here at Navy Marine Corps Stadium. How about the respect that you draw now for the Navy midshipmen who continue to play wonderful